So, good afternoon. The one that you see in this picture is Fatherhood, and it will be destroyed within 3 months. So, my name is Gabriele, and I'm working with the Street Art Museum of Amsterdam to preserve fatherhood in virtual reality. Today, I'm going to show you something about the workflow that I used to create this experience that merges reality, and also show with you some of the tools that I used, and among which I believe that there is at least one that is currently disrupting the creative workflow of studios like Cartoon Networks and Disney. But before I do that, I think that is important. I want to tell you why this matters. And the best way of doing that is, I believe, to guide you to the same process that turned me into someone that really believed in this project. And that started with the artwork. I'm just going to share with you just 3 pieces of artwork out of the hundreds that compose the collection of the Street Art Museum of Amsterdam, and it is curated by Anna. So the first one is inspired by a 500 years old Persian poem, and it's called The Last Kiss. And it's the typical example of how street art and its ever-changing nature can spark a dialogue. So you see here that there is a man that is being executed for his political stance, and that despite he's being pulled up by the snooze, he's firmly rooted to the ground. While instead, you see that the woman is giving his last kiss, is stretching up with her arms, with her calves, as if reaching towards him. The fact is that right now, this is how the artwork looks like. And that's because someone, after the artwork was finished, someone approached Anna and accused her of painting pornography on the walls of a mostly Muslim neighborhood. And after the initial disappointment, you see how this is an even stronger statement from the poem and from the artist, and it has the capability to spark a dialogue every time that Anna makes one of her tours. Another example is instead Glory, and depicts one of the most famous Dutch painting, the Milkmaid by Vermeer. And here, it's a typical example of how street art can trigger change. In the making of this artwork, what happened is that a woman approached Anna again and asked a very legitimate question. The question was, why are you painting a white Dutch woman on my wall where actually nobody in that building is either Dutch or white? Well, what happened is that as a part of the activity, there were also workshops organized. And 2 days later, that same woman came back saying, thank you, you should organize more of this workshop. This is the typical example of how street art can bring change. And the last example is instead an artwork called Safety, and is the typical example of street art made by the community. And that's because the funding to create of this artwork was raised by the community, by the neighborhood, and the names of the people that contributed are at the bottom of the artwork. And it is the typical example of how, and it's actually the artwork is a reminder, very strong reminder of one of the most dangerous neighborhood of the city, that the strongest are not the one that are the sharpest teeth, but the people that protect the weaker. Like, for example, a shepherd girl carrying a lamp. And it's this that makes, I believe, the work of Sama so special. It's this interaction with the community via the guided tours that go on from now several years, and workshop with schools and the community again. But how did this all started, and what's actually the connection between this and VR? Well, the way it worked is that I was basically browsing my Facebook feed. And at some point, I see a big Oculus Go with a sticker of Sama, and then I sent them a message. And I always love to tell story about XR, so I sent her also a small sample of what I thought could be possible in AR, and I asked her what were they actually doing with it, if I could see their experience they created. Well, the week after we meet, and that's the moment that I do an amazing tour. And actually, for whoever has been in Amsterdam, I suggest please go and have a tour, a 3 hours tour on the street of Amsterdam. And then I asked her, did you by any chance see what I sent you? And she did. She said no. So she puts on the headset, And in that moment, I have the impression that she a bit overreact. She calls other volunteers and she says, come, come, safety is back, safety is back. That's not clear yet. So what she does then, all the pieces start getting together. She would get a bricks from a shelf, and then she shows it to me. And then she says, look, this is everything that is left of safety. The shepherd's girl has been destroyed 1.5 years ago. And this is actually footage from that day, where other pieces of artwork have been destroyed. So you see at this point that preservation is actually not a nice to have, it's just a necessity, because it has to be a way of protecting the artwork and to have its message stay long after it will be gone. So that's why we hopped in this project. So what do we pick out of the 300s? And the first one, and the one we chose, was Fatherhood by Stingfish. Stingfish is a Colombian artist and goes around the world capturing pictures of people, the people that live the street, the people that makes it alive. And he picked this picture of a father with his child taken in Nepal at a bus stop. And he picked this as an answer to the top-down initiative of the municipality of Amsterdam that was providing funding to have fathers more engaged with their children. And in that moment, actually, in the making of the artwork, also the irony was that Pokemon Go was released. And you could see on the street fathers with a flock of children basically following them, because they were the only one with a phone. And so they were this group of children going around the street of Amsterdam trying to catch Pokemon with their father. And so you see how then technology is able to bring and get families together and get them to interact more than what the top-down initiative did. So Fatherhood was indeed the best pick. So what we wanted to do is to create something that everybody could experience. It doesn't matter if they could do it on the desktop, just on their phone, or a simple headset. And we also wanted to do something more than just put a 360 camera there and having like basically a tour, because that wouldn't have allowed us to get any symbolism, any of the power that street art carries with it. So that's why we went through this journey. And now, what I want to do is just give you a very broad overview, very, very quick, and then later on I'm going to go into the different details. So here you have, first we use photogrammetry to capture the model. Took a bunch of pictures, managed to make a 3D model, and then imported it into an animation platform in virtual reality, made a 360 capture of it, then we combined with a standard video from a 360 in front of during an actual tour. We combined everything together in the editing software and came up with the final result. Now, have a little disclaimer, because if at any moment now you hear me maybe excited or about this or about any of the tools that I'm going to mention, neither me nor Anna are affiliated with any of them. So the only reason why I am excited about it is just because I love to tell stories about XR. And when technology and XR comes together to allow us to tell stories that otherwise would remain untold, is just what I love. So, first step, photogrammetry. Now, in a nutshell, basically what photogrammetry does is that you are able to reconstruct 3D objects from images. So you go very easily, you get a bunch of images, get a point cloud, you come up with a mesh, then there is a texture that is created from the image that you took, you wrap it around your mesh, and here you go, you have the 3D object. Very easy. Now, there are several tools on the market. Realities, there is a Mushroom, I believe. And honestly, the feeling was that the moment you step into it, it feels a bit like that the learning curve would have been rather steep to really get into these tools. And so when I was trying to get more information, I realized, yeah, this is probably not going to happen, or at least until I found 3D Flow. 3D Flow is basically the complete photogrammetry package, because what you can do is that you can as easily get images, throw them inside the software, and get the model out. The fact is that the same tool actually allow you to, in the hand of a pro user, allow you to create a model that is good enough, that is at a level of detail that can be used for scientific research. So basically, the only thing that was left to do was taking pictures. And here is basically a bunch of recommendations that I put down. And for anybody, I put together, if anybody really wants to dig into this, I put together a one-pager with the link to all the resources, documentation, and the best tutorial that I could find, so that you can already hop in and try it yourself. And please contact me on LinkedIn or right after here, please reach out. And the reason for this is because I wish I had something like this. The fact is that you want to have 3D assets, and right now you can just start playing with it with your phone and try to make something yourself. Having a starting point that you say, okay, how should I do it? How can I just start doing it? And this was starting point, try it out, and then I'm sure you're gonna come up with something useful out of it. Now, so this is, after a couple of trials, the days of the shoot actually came. So for sake of the story, in that moment, we didn't decided yet what to shoot. So I received a message from Anna with an address, and she tells me, please scan Fatherhood, I'll be there shortly. So in that moment, I reached this basically 12.5 meter tall wall, 2.5 wide, and on top of that there was some harsh sunlight. As you can see, it's not good for photogrammetry, as well as strong wind. You know why that's critical later. And I go there basically with all my equipment in it, and there is this little drone, camera, the usual suspect. Yeah. And along with it, you also see some other tools that are maybe less common, like a skateboard, a wooden board, duct tape. I mean, who doesn't need duct tape? Some strings. And I'm going to tell you later on how I use that. Nevertheless, basically I started scanning, and the bottom of the model was done with just pictures, while instead the top I had to fly the drone. The drone is a little Spark, so it doesn't stand a lot the wind, and also has only 13 minutes of flying time. If you want to take several hundred pictures, that's not going to work out. But I remember that 3D Flow also allow you to use videos. So basically, you can run your drone, make a video, and it's going to automatically filter out frames, good frames that you can use during the shot, during the reconstruction. And also, interesting to know, it's also able to recognize if the previous frame was similar to the other one. So you're going to just come out with a set of good frames that you can use straight away. And so, after a lot of scanning, here is how Fatherhood looks like. And the result, I was really happy with the result. And the reason for this is because, you know, making a picture would be like pretending to show how a tattoo looks like, but on a 2D surface. It just doesn't work. And you would miss all the details. For example, the abandoned bike at the left that is being overgrown by vines, as well as the signature on the artist at the bottom there. And here also I would like to thank the people that helped me finishing up the model of the 360 Fabrik, Jan Vervoort, because the right side of this model was under the shade, and that was incredibly hard to build. So if you want, and if you're looking to someone that could help you with this project, absolutely, would recommend getting in touch with the 360 Fabrik. They really helped immensely. And so the tool is basically, that's the model, and very happy with it. How do we bring it into an animated scene? Now, people are often maybe are aware of tools like Quill to animate. But I have a question for you, and I wonder, who ever heard about Tvori? we go. We have just one. Okay, so this is gonna be great because I think you're gonna thank me at the end. And the reason for this is because Tvori is just the perfect creative playground. And the reason for this is simple. You have a set of tools that you can use in that is absolutely incredible. You have a brush to create shapes. You have the ability to import directly from Google Poly assets. You have lights that are completely, that you can modulate however you want. A camera that is also fully customizable, a 360 camera. You have puppets that are already rigged. The ability to animate with real-time animation and in VR, as well as a materializer that allows you to change material of objects and making it also shiny or not. And some of these tools that you see here are only available in the Pro version, because right now you can use this, you can get it from Steam. That's it. So you just go there and play with what you have right now, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be blown away. And in the Pro version, there is much more compatibility with other tools, like, for example, Vuforia or Unity, 3ds Max, so that it's not made to replace, but it's made to integrate and complement the creative pipeline. And that's why at Cartoon Networks, the director of digital development is using it right now. Storyboard artists at Disney are using it right now. And actually, Cartoon Networks released just 3 games beginning of this month that were fully animated in Tvori. So I could keep talking, but so you can do 2 things, right? One thing that you can do is that you can create and animate in VR. And this can be as easy as, for example, I needed some nudity. I cannot do 3D modeling, but I got some assets. I convert them into a GLTF format and drop them into Tvori. And from there, you just start creating. So what you do here is a very simple example. You get, for example, a wooden board that you can just move it in the scene. And you have, and this whole scene that you see here was created in Tvori. Right? So you can, for example, use the gizmo tool to move the board however you want, as well as scale down to adjust the visuals to have everything aligned. But then right after, you can experience it as if your user is going to experience it. You don't have to, you are creating in VR for VR. And what you see here is just these steps that you see are not because I'm moving in a real space, but because the camera is synchronized with the animation of the camera that I made in the scene. Right? And yet you see that at the top right, there was a problem with the texture. I just drag another stone, resize it, put it back, and then I'm able to, again, restart the experience it. And then here you see this flying scene where basically the user is going to fly up and see Fatherhood in a way that would be impossible even in reality. And what is also very nice is that basically it's so easy to use that because the team did an incredible work with the user interface. So everything is absolutely super easy. And the other advantage is that consequently, also the army of 2D artists that draw and sketch, they are often intimidated by tools like 3ds Max or others, could then hop in and just start creating in a matter of a couple of hours. So this is how you create. And here are, for example, some scene that I captured with the Ingame camera, right? And these are, thanks to Tvori, we were actually able to really explore all our creative possibilities and also add some of the symbolism that we were actually looking for. So in this case, we are going to have, during the experience, our user being sucked up from the real world into this animated world, and then having exciting stuff coming out around him while a trusted guardian protects him along the way. So you see here you have a car crash scene as well as this fly scene where basically they're going to fly towards fatherhood to see it from another perspective, as well as the beloved or hated plank experience, depending if you love or hate heights. And then it was also possible to animate. And you can animate in, I said, in real time, or you can animate as well with keyframe animation. And you can animate, of course, objects, import your rigged model. But of course, again, I don't do 3D modeling, I don't do rigging or skinning, so I look for an alternative. And the best I found was Masterpiece Motion. Masterpiece was born as a 3D sculpting tool. So you are just able to sculpture shapes in 3D, but they created this extra seat that allow you to rig and skin a model. And the best way of just showing you, basically the way it works is that you can just, with your controller, drag and simply add the bones to the model. And I made this with a tree, just for explanation. And after you've done it, you just skin it. So skin basically means that you assign a certain vertices to a bone, so that when that bone is going to move, what you do is that you have you have the model moving. And it's just super easy. You just do it everywhere. You just say, okay, this part is assigned to this part of the branch is to that. And once you're finished, it's as easy as grabbing the model into the scene, you import it, and then you start keyframe animation. You set the initial keyframe, and then move a bit the slider, and then bloop, here you have it. In a matter of a couple of minutes, you have the tree moving without any prior experience. So that's basically why I love this, because just without any experience is when the technology comes together, and tools like Tvori and Masterpiece Motion allow you to create something that otherwise would be impossible. So, well, we were able then at the end to export this as a 360 export, and from Tvori you can export in stereoscopy 8K footage. And then the other part was basically recording an actual tour with Anna in front of Fatherhood. But then what we wanted was to have the user basically, as I said, being sucked up inside the artwork, right, from the real world. And in order to do this, what we needed was, of course, to have the camera moving in the real world. And the question is, how do you do this without being in the shot on a budget? Well, the answer is this contraption. So you see here where the moment where the skate, the board, and the duct tape comes into play. So what happened here also was that to be able to move it, I tied basically a string to one end of the skateboard, wrap it around a pin that I put in the ground, around the lamppost, so that I could be behind this wall, pulling the string, and allowing consequently the skateboard to move towards the artwork. It worked, but the problem was, of course, the rig. So I'm not a big fan of patches or logo or of some sort. So I also, in this case, looked for an alternative. And it was pretty good when I found Mocha Pro. So you see here how the result of basically removing the rig. On the left, you have the original footage, and on the right, you have Mocha Pro. And I have to say that I had to be a bit more generous with the masking here, because there is still a little bit of shadow. But again, the result is pretty good. I was pretty happy about it. So that's where everything is going to be, because if there is something that I understand, that I understood from this project, is that street art is a language, right? It's a language that connects the community with the visitor, with the artist, with a deeper meaning. And we wanted to give everybody the opportunity to be part of this conversation. And that is why yesterday we launched our Kickstarter. And it would mean a lot to me, to Anna, to the community, to the artist, if you could share this on your social network with your friends, family, because we want everybody to be part of the conversation. The money will go towards the buying of the equipment and the licenses needed to complete this experience, as well as funding future preservation efforts. I want to thank everybody and share the words. Thank you very much.